As for our keynote speaker, his is a story of making dreams come true, all of them. Starting out as a professional football player for the Detroit Lions, he went on to become a NASA astronaut. He completed 2 space shuttle missions to help build the International Space Station. He also served as the co-chair for the White House's Federal Coordination, developing the nation's 5-year plan for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. Please welcome Mr. Leland Melvin.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm very honored and blessed to be here with some of these most talented writers and illustrators. Congratulations on your craft. Congratulations on what you do to help us see the really, really big picture. Now, Orson mentioned earlier that the writers are the ones that rule the world. They're really the ones that guide the universe, okay? There we are in the Milky Way, and if you drill down just a little bit more, you see here we are in our 8-planet system, formerly 9-planet system. That dwarf planet Pluto thing didn't work out. But when you're sitting there crafting your stories, you're helping inspire that next generation of explorers. You're helping inspire that next Ender's Game 5 or 6 or 7. You're the ones that are going to be leading the charge and helping advance our civilization. And so I think of the visionaries back in the day. In the 60s, we had 2 visionaries. We had President John F. Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who believed in changing our world in a very different way. And JFK's words were, we're going to send a human being to the moon and back safely. And Dr. Martin Luther King, during that same time, was trying to bring together people from all races, keeping away the civil unrest. And so I think about when I was about maybe 4 or 5 years old at that time, and people say, well, when you watched Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walk on the moon, was that inspired you to become an astronaut? I'm like, no, not really. It was really interesting people in this field, in this room probably, that had something to do with people like Nichelle Nichols. She was a really interesting person on TV. So when you think about Nichelle Nichols, she was the first African-American female on the flight deck in a leadership position in the 60s. And you also had Captain Kirk kissing Nichelle Nichols, the first interracial kiss on television in the 60s. Now, you also had the first intergalactic kiss when he kissed the green person from another planet. But all of that comes from your pens and your illustrations. It comes from helping inspire that next generation. And I think about my parents, who, when I grew up in a small town in Lynchburg, Virginia, they were a community of educators that helped inspire me. And so they gave me certain things that inspired me. So when I thought about what was it that really got me going as a child, what inspired me was when I asked my dad for a skateboard. He said, we don't have the money, figure it out yourself. So I went to the wood shop, got some wood, bought the trucks after I got a paper route. He taught me how to think on my feet, think on myself to give me the things that I wanted. And he not only did it for me, he did it for the entire community. And my dad passed recently, and at this funeral, people came up to me to tell me, if it wasn't for your father, I would have been in jail on drugs or dead. So he affected this community in such a major way. And that's what communities like this that L. Ron has helped generate with these writers and these illustrators have helped change the world in such a significant way. So what inspired me? Chemistry. My mom gave me a chemistry set when I was a kid. I created the most incredible explosion in her living room, burned a hole in her carpet, and then she had a hand in my development. But it was a good, back in the day when you could do that. And then also I love sports. And so where did these formative things lead me? They led me to having money to buy a snowboard, becoming a chemist in college at the University of Richmond, and also, as Gunhill said, I was drafted to the Detroit Lions in the NFL. So, some Lions fans in here? Okay. So how do we help inspire and motivate those next generations? Being picked as an NFL draft pick, I pulled a hamstring in training camp. And so, yeah, I know, that hurt quite a bit. But from that injury, it led me on to do different things. So I had a plan B, which is my being an engineer at NASA, and did that for about 10 years. And a friend of mine, he turned to me and he said, Leland, here's an application to be an astronaut. Why don't you fill this out? And I looked at it, and I didn't think, I remember it in Nichelle Nichols, someone kind of looked like me on the flight deck. But I said, I think I'll put that away. And that same year, a friend of mine, he applied to the astronaut corps and he got in. And I said to myself, wait a minute. If NASA's letting knuckleheads like that in to become astronauts, maybe I can become one too. So I applied that next year, and it was one of the most incredible things. If you look, you see can you find me in the crowd anywhere? Where's Leland? Am I in the front row? In the front to the left, or to the side, or somewhere? But this was our class in 1998. It was 31 of us from around the world working together to train to become astronauts. And if you look at me, I had never flown a jet before. Now I'm in charge of flying a jet from the back seat, and it was an incredible experience. But before going to space, I had many challenges. And one of the most severe challenges that I had was after training. This was one of our training events in this really big pool, 6 billion gallon pool, which has a space shuttle and the space station below in the water. And I was going down for the first time and realized that in my helmet in the white suit, there was no Valsalva pad. And this is a little styrofoam block that allows you to press your nose against it to clear your ears. I'm the kind of guy, I need to press my nose to clear. This was not in my suit. Long story short, I came out of the water completely deaf. And the doctors and people from around the world did not know what had happened to me. So the flight surgeon said, you're medically disqualified to fly in space. You will never fly in space. But I did not give up. So for all those writers who have been told their work is horrible and you will never be successful as a writer, never give up, because you will find something else that believes in you. And never give up on yourself. Always believe in yourself. I always had a passion for education from my parents, and so I said, well, while I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with my hearing did come back slowly, but I was still medically disqualified. So I went to Washington and worked in education. I worked with students from all around the world, and I said, if I'm not going to fly, at least I'm going to help other people find their dreams and their inspiration. And then another defining moment happened, which was the Columbia accident. And we have Dr. June Scobie Rogers in here, who is the widow of Dick Scobie from the Challenger accident. And we're all one big family. We get through, when we have these things that happen, we get through it. We help inspire others. And so this defining moment for me, I was in Washington, D.C. working with teachers and students to help them become astronauts. And then the Columbia tragedy happened. I was flying around the country with the families, going to the different memorial services. And then as we were flying and taking off, the chief flight surgeon was taking notes. So when I was ready to go back to Houston to see what I was going to do, he wrote me a waiver and said, Leland, I believe in you. You're doing great work. You should fly in space. So I went back to Houston with the, yay, the get out of jail free card. I walked back, and then I get assigned to 2 space shuttle missions on Atlantis. I flew in Atlantis. So the people that went down to Houston, or to Florida in 1997 to see Atlantis, that was also my bird. I flew that on both flights, 2008, 2009. And here's a picture of me working on the flight deck. You see me busy reading some of the flight data file. Writers had to make that data file. So you guys are helping us here. And then also, one of my main tasks was to install the Columbus Laboratory, European Space Agency's laboratory. So if you see here, I used the robotic arm at the top to install this. And I remember when I first got the assignment, there were some German flight controllers in Houston, and they said, congratulations, Leland, high-fiving me, congratulations, congratulations. And then as I'm walking out of the room, one of them turns to me and says, we've been waiting 10 years. Don't screw it up. No pressure, no pressure. So after installation of this Columbus module, we had this huge meal over in the Russian segment. We called it the Space Smorgasbord. And if you look at this picture, you see African-American, Asian-American, French, German, Russian, the first female commander of the International Space Station. You also see 2 people that the countries we used to fight against, Russia and Germany. So when you think about the things that we do as a civilization to help advance ourselves, we do it in space together, collectively. And I think about Dr. Peggy Whitson. She had a very defining moment as the commander of the space station. When she came home on her last mission, how many of you have seen Gravity? Some of you in here? Did you like Gravity? Okay, I liked it. I really liked it a lot. A few little things here and there with the physics, but I really liked it. But when Peggy came back on her last mission, if you look at the scorch marks in Kazakhstan, you actually see where the Soyuz capsule was burned. As they came back on reentry, the top portion of the Soyuz, there were 8 bolts that should have explosively come apart, 2 did not, so they were receiving 8G spikes as they came home. And it was a really tragic moment, but the bolts finally came undone, they came home, they scorched Kazakhstan landscape, and they survived. And so when you think about art imitating life, it's life imitating art. So what you do with your skills in your writing, in your illustrations, help define not just our world, Orson, our universe. Thank you very much.